All right, happy to have my next guest on the one of one sports card guest line. He's someone I sort of know. We have a history, a funny story there. I'll get to that once. Let me introduce him. He's from this area originally. He's now in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to talk about why and what he's doing and all that good stuff. But thanks for being on board, Chris Kelsey. Welcome.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So funny story with Chris. We both. I still play. I don't know how well anymore at age 47, but what was it? Probably 15 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer. We both played in the same league in Fulton, New York, and this league was pretty cool because they would do of all the games. I mean, this is men's competitive softball. They would do a write up of it. Whoever had a good game, they'd put the score, and for each team, they'd kind of highlight one or two, three players who did well. And we both played in that league, not on the same team. And I got to know Chris from the card side of things and knew where he was from. And it came up that we, played softball. And I had a couple of these articles kind of socked away, collecting dust like in a binder, and I broke it out just in process of looking through other things, and I saw a game that I played against them at the time. we both had a decent game when we're both in the article about what we did in the game, and I thought it was kind of funny and interesting. I remember shooting them over a picture of it. We got a good chuckle at that. So we're softball buddies, and we didn't even know it at the time, and obviously a hobby background, and you're doing big things. Congratulations before we even get into them.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've been in it. I've done this a long time in the hobby. I had a store from 1990 to 95. I'm old, so kind of talk up, Chris. It's the old standby hobby podcast question, but kind of how you got into cards from the early going in the first place.
Well, honestly, in about 2014, I was out in Los Angeles and I was just really bored. And there was a place down in Beverly Hills, I think it was, a card shop. And I used to rip like Magic the Gathering and Star Wars cards when I was a kid. I had sports cards, but I didn't rip them.
Yeah.
And I wanted that thrill of opening a pack. I was like that. I was just chasing that. So I went to a sports card shop and I was talking to him about baseball cards. And I remember him trying to get me to buy a box of Bowman, and I just couldn't understand why people wanted prospects. And I just wanted the veterans. And so I ended up buying a box of like Top Series 1, I believe, 2014, and I started opening it. And once I started, seeing that you can get autographs and jersey cards, I didn't even know they existed. I was just blown away, and I was like, this is so cool. I need to learn more about this.
Yeah, here we are. So, 6 years later, look where you are. I love those stories, hearing how people get into the hobby. For me, I was 7 in New York City, and I was already kind of a baseball fan even at a young age, and I didn't realize they made cards. And then I saw that pack and put 2 and 2 together, asked my grandfather, can I get some of those? He bought me a couple. First pack had Reggie in it, and the rest is history. Did my first show at 15, did the first store at 20 to 25, and then transition to the online part of the hobby, which is where you started as well. I know I'm sure you're on all the platforms, but Instagram's kind of where you made your bones, so to speak.
Absolutely. Instagram is actually where we started. Where I started as even a collector. I kind of faded away from that 2014 zone. I kind of, when you get that initial itch and you rip a lot and then you learn it's not worth a lot of money and then you feel like you got punched in the stomach. That's kind of what happened to me. And this was a time where I was like, clawing for money a little bit. So I kind of took a break from cards. And then in about probably 2016, when I moved to Nashville, I found a local show. And that's where I started going down there. And at the same time, I was interested in the online scene that you spoke of. So at the time, I didn't have a Facebook. I didn't have any social media. I was one of those weird people living in a hole. And
you're probably the smarter at the time. You're probably the smarter one in the bunch.
Not a lot of people thought that. Probably thought it was kind of weird, but so I jumped on Instagram because I knew Topps had that, and I was trying to enter these giveaways, and I just made a new handle called NashCards because I just moved to Nashville, and it was my card account, and I learned everything I know on pretty much Instagram and that local show in Nashville, which is pretty cool.
And so you just got bit by the bug, really, and just kind of
absolutely. So I just got real into the scene, especially on Instagram. Like there was a lot of younger generations there, and it was kind of interesting learning from that demographic too. You kind of see a new side of thing, but they weren't doing the same things that you see on Facebook. So I remember, like, when I moved over to Facebook, I saw razzing going on, which I'm sure you know about. And, well, I was one of the people, like me and some other kids, we did some Raz pages back in the day on Instagram that were like pretty popular. And that stuff didn't exist back then on Instagram. And so once we got really full-fledged with that, it kind of built me a traction. Like, we were the only people doing that. And I started gaining followers, and I started, integrating a lot with a lot of accounts there. And my account just kind of, snowballed into what it is today.
Did you know early on, like, hey, someday I'd like to do this full time? I want to make.
Absolutely not. It wasn't until I started like going to that show, and I bought an Aaron Judge Inception from 2016 for $10, and I razzed it for $25. And I was like, I just made $10 in 5 minutes, And I was like, that's when I really got the itch. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Because when I was out in LA, I was like trying to flip furniture and I was always trying to flip something. But, I lived in a small apartment, and we had big dressers and chairs. Like furniture is huge, and this was like these little pieces of cardboard that I could like stack in a box of something that I was really interested in sports, because I'm really big into fantasy anyway. Yeah. And they go under my bed. My wife's not complaining. No one's complaining, and I can make money off them. I was just obsessed. So.
And then here you are, doing big things.
We're about 16,000 followers later. We're
it's crazy. So. It's crazy. When I had my store, Chris, and I've said this on my show many times, number one, social media didn't exist. So I didn't have the luxury of that. Did well with what we had to work with. But what I did in 1990 or 1992, I should say, would not work today. It's a number one. There wasn't there wasn't breaking at that time. Grading was around, but it was really in its infancy stages, not what we know it as today. I joke around all the time. Breaking, I think, saved the wax part of the hobby, and in a sense, saved the hobby. But I come from a time period where, if I had packs and my buddies were like, let me open a couple, I'm like, no, get your own, man. And yet here we are, in today's day and age where you're paying somebody, and it's great. I mean, I dabble in it a little bit, not very often, but sometimes, but you're paying someone to open the product, and then you're hopefully getting some of those cards. And I'm old school where, like, I don't want you open, like, buy your own packs. I'm not opening your pack. And it's where we've come and how attitudes and things have changed, mostly in a positive way, not all, but I always say some I get asked every once in a while, somebody, a listener or someone will message me, hey, you ever open a card store again, John? No, I had one. And it's different. I'm not saying I never think about it. I think it's easier and harder at the same time. I think it's harder because you're battling not only just like other stores, even though you're not really, you're kind of forging but you're also battling that. One of the reasons I sold out to my partner and left my store back then, Chris, was eBay came along. And so I was battling this invisible entity. People were coming in the store and say, hey, John, can you do $20 on that? And, I maybe had it marked for 30. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, I can get it on eBay for like $20.
Yep.
And I'm like, eBay. And then that's how I kind of really, really got into eBay, or like looked into what it is. And that started happening more. And I'm like, at the time I was young, probably even younger than you are. And I was missing out on some stuff. Like friends were like, "Hey, let's go. We're going out of state to this rock concert. Let's go." And I'm like, "I gotta be at the store, man. I can't leave. I wanted to go, but I had that commitment." And I'm a real big like, I'm not going to close the store, even though I had a partner. If I was my day to be there, I didn't like to skimp out on that or back out on my commitments. And so I missed some things, in my early 20s, and I just said, and eBay came along, and it was the best of both worlds for me, because it allowed me to still sell cards, but also not have that freedom, or to have that freedom to not be in that four walls and locked in. Now, I loved it. I'm not saying I would do anything different. I loved having a store. But it's a different playing field now. What I did in the 90s, like I just said, would not work. I would be out. I wouldn't last 5 years today with what worked for me back then. It's a whole different aspect, but there's a lot of good things too. And that social media stuff that I didn't have, that's one of the positives, because that word of mouth is the best free advertising. Like you said, even with Instagram getting up to 16,000 followers, that stuff is you can't put a price on stuff, and with that. So kind of talk about how NashCards the store, when did that start brewing in your mind? When did you think?
Like probably about 3 months ago, honestly.
Yeah.
If you, like, I spoke about this before on some other places, but like if you asked me a year ago if I was going to have a store, I would have adamantly told you no. But as you stated, the landscape has changed so much, even in the last year, that I figured I could run a store differently. And that only happened once we ran that PSA bulk sub that we run, which I'm sure we'll speak about later.
Yeah.
But a good example of that compared to your 90s store is when I just joined the store game about a month ago when I opened, I can't get allocations of wax from these distributors because I'm too new, right? And it's not like it used to be where it's like you pop up a store, you get the wax, you distribute it to the customers. It's, you got to spend a lot of money over a lot of amount of time to even get a little piece of the pie, because that's how popular wax is. So you come into my store, I don't have cases of Prism football on back order. I have zero cases of Prism football coming in. I guarantee I won't even have one hobby box of Prism football in my store, which is kind of a little odd. But we do things like a lot differently. Like we have a store where we take your cards and grade them for you. Or we have a store where a kid here yesterday said, I've never seen a store with so many PSA slabs for sale. Every player he wanted, I had a slab of something. And then I have the typical quarter boxes, and I do have wax, but since that field is different, I have to offer something different in order to compete. And my online presence is really what that is, as well as the store is just kind of an office, as we kind of discussed earlier. It's just an office space for us. It's a glorified office. When my guys work in the back, they do our PSA. We do our online stuff there. We generate our revenue there, and then we make friends coming in the door. And we hang. I get to sit out here, hang out, rip cards with people, and just have fun with cardboard. So
and you've adapted, and you make a great point, Chris. You make a great point with the wax. Now, I don't want to keep talking about me, but just to show you the difference in today's day and age. When I had the store in the 90s, I was direct with Topps, Upper Deck, Fleer, Donruss, Score. Some people are like, Score, Fleer, Don. What is that, right? Because we got the big two in Upper Deck and Leaf. But back then you had all these individual companies until they got bought out. But I was direct with all those, so I could get, like you said, I was the opposite. I could get cases. And as we know now, there was no shortage of those products. They just mass produced them. I remember fielding calls. They would come, hey, you need another case? Like they would call to sell me some. Hey, how you doing? How you doing on that case? Do you need any more? We can get it out to you. We'll put a rush shipment on it, and we'll get it out to you if you need another case. So they were asking me to take more product. As we know now, that isn't the case. It's hard. Even distributors wise, you gotta kind of really be there a couple years and buy a lot of the non-premium stuff, if you will, the great stuff to even have a shot. There's no guarantee, and it's tough. That's, we see what's happening. You can't even go to Walmart and Target and get a blaster anymore, right? So it has changed the landscape. It's one of the things I think about when I get asked that question, Chris, is, John, will you ever open a store again? That's the one thing that makes me pause a little bit. It's difficult. And you mentioned you can get it, but you got to decide, what is it worth paying this price? Because in turn, you got to turn around and pay your bills. And so, you're thinking of it along two lines. Hey, number one, do I want to charge my customers this much for it? But I have to, because I have to buy it for this price. And
that's exactly my struggle right now, John. That if you know me, my Instagram account and all that, what I'm known for is to be you don't have to comp me. It's usually my card is going to be 80, 85, 90% eBay. It's going to be under eBay. It's going to be a hot guy that you're investing in. You're not going to have to pay that eBay tax and blah, blah, blah. You're going to save yourself $20, $30. That's always been my model. So for me, just to change that, just because I have this store and buy secondary wax and mark it up to $600 a box when you can go onto eBay and get it for $500, I won't do that. I will never do that. So the only wax that I stock in my store is something that I can price at market price where I'm not losing money. A lot of that wax I'm breaking even on. And it's really just, it's really just because that's what people to have it. Yeah. Because people come here, they Google me, and if I don't have it, they're going to be mad at me. So, and then also I love it too. I like to watch them rip it, and I hang out with them. Oh, yeah. And the best part about it is after they rip their cards, a lot of them, they open up 2-3 boxes with me, and then they put the cards in the sleeves and they walk them over to our countertop there and they go, hey, you want a 20-day these first? Yeah. And we take them right there on the spot. So
and you've adapted well, and the wax, I think that stuff, I don't know when, it's not an on-off switch. I think that wax thing is going to work itself out. Maybe it might
I think it's going to break 100%. It's going to break. Something's going to.
It's like anything. It's cyclic, and it goes up and down. I think right now we're just in, I tell the story a couple months ago, true story. I walked in to Walmart. I didn't even walk in there, Chris, to 4-card specifically. I was getting something for the house, but you go to Walmart, you're going to check the card out, being a card
every
guy.
Time.
And no, I don't know how it is there, but here in the Syracuse area, forget about it. It's just like piranhas. There's just bones left, and the only thing that's even left in the card, and even that's taking a hit, is that the Magic stuff, the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, and so I got used to just going in the card aisle, looking real quick, and not seeing nothing, and doing my shopping and getting the heck out of Dodge. And so, but I always look. You never know, right? And so this day I went. This a couple months ago, like I said, and I went in the card aisle, not expecting much. And there was a lady already there, and I could see I was at a distance where I couldn't see. She had the whole display in her, kind of like this on her arm. I couldn't tell what it was yet, but I went in the card aisle, and initially I kind of looked on the shelves first, and those were pretty much what I expected, cleaned out. And what she had on her arm was optic basketball. It was fairly new at the time, and obviously bringing a lot more money than the $20 a blaster that you can buy them from if you found it. And she saw I was in the cards, and she was actually a nice lady. She said, "Hey, I'm taking this whole display, but I'm willing to be nice. If you want a couple of these, I'll let you have them." And I'm like, "Nah, I could have," but I'm like, "To the victor goes the spoils." And she says to me, true story, she says, "I really don't know what these are, but I know I'm going to put them on eBay and probably make three times what I'm going to pay." And at the time, they were probably going for about $100 a blaster. So she was actually underestimating what she was going to get. She's probably going to get 4 times, if not 5 times, what she was about to ring them up at. And but the moral of the story there was here. That's where we are with the hobby. We're here. You have a lady who has not in the hobby. She's not a collector. She said as much to me. She didn't even know anything about the product other than, hey, I'm going to flip this and make what she said, 3 times her money. That's where we are, is when, people who aren't in the hobby, and there's not, hey, it's free enterprise. The last I checked, when I woke up this morning, we were still in the United States of America. And, I know some people would probably frown upon that, but, she got there first, or the timing was right for her. And, but Zion, I could have been Zion Williamson standing next to her, and she wouldn't have had any idea who I was. She just knew, hey, I'm going to, and listen, we got a pandemic going on with COVID, and some people are hurt more than others. I get it. And I think she just saw an opportunity. Hey, I'm going to buy this for 20 and sell it for 60. Although like I said, at the time they were going for 80 or 100, but she was thinking 3 times her money, and she was more than fine with that. And so you're not only competing against fellow hobbyists now, you're competing against people who aren't even in the hobby. They're just seeing dollar signs or an opportunity to make some money, and that really sort of muddies the water. Some people actually can't stand that. I'm all to each their own. Yeah,
I'm all for it. Every customer that comes in here, I mean, almost the majority. I have like a small percentage of customers that come in here that are like really collectors. That like, I really like John Olerud and I want a card of him. You know what I mean? Like, majority of them are. I mean, they're collectors. We're all collectors, but the majority of them are like, I like Kobe White. I think he's going to be better, and his market's going to go up, so I want to buy him. Everyone that comes in my door is trying to make money off me. And I could either be a salty, bad business owner and be like, no, I'm going to get every dime. Or I could like sell things at my margins where they make money, I make money, everyone makes money, we're happy. And the way I look at it is I have these quarter bins and these 50-cent bins up in the front. They're loaded with like colored $3 eBay cards. And I had one customer in there 4 or 5 hours pick out $500 worth of like 50-cent cards, right? And maybe not that much, like 300. And the way I look at it is he's going to go home and put them on eBay. And I'm all for that. Like, he's going to go home, put them on eBay. He's going to make a couple $100. But the way I look at it is
he's going to come back and get load up again.
Well, if I would have had to pay my employee to do the same thing, it's the same wage that I'm paying an employee to pick that box.
Yeah,
so he's just my like contract employee picking my boxes.
Yeah, without having to pay. Yeah. And he pays you instead. And
exactly.
And that's the way to look at it, Chris. That's the thing. Everyone, we got this thing where everyone, I sell cards to this day. I have Newman Sports Card, which is just an online presence. And we're in a stage now where, like, if you sell cards and you don't have a storefront like you do, like where I'm at now, just an online presence. I pay sales tax. I still have a sales tax. It's not like
you have to once you get up to a certain amount, you're gonna get hit.
But there's a negative connotation now going on in this hobby that if you flip cards or you sell anything, that you're bad or you're just in it for the money. And we got to get, to me, when I hear that, like, it drives me nuts, because number one, who cares? Like you said. And number two,
who's not doing their job for money? Who doesn't do their job for money? We all work for money. That's what we do.
But it's a lot. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people have kept with everything going on with the pandemic and people are getting kind of angst and mad and grumpy. I don't know. I'm sure jealousy is sort of an issue with some. Hey, I can't sell my cards and you are. What are you doing? And I'm not doing yada, yada, yada. You got to look with them. Maybe you're pricing them too high. You know what I mean? It's not that I'm doing something bad and hurting you. It's maybe you got to look inwardly. And so we got this time in a hobby where it's just real easy to critique and pick on other people or dislike folks. And I never see, don't get me wrong. I've been in this hobby a long time. There's always been a little bit of that undercurrent But it seems like the last couple years, it's really, really kind of come to the surface. And now as you know, we've got more influencers involved, and Gary V, and not just Gary V. I think sometimes he's unfairly kind of painted as like the spokesman for all the influencers. I mean, he's probably the most popular, but we have celebrities getting involved in cards, and it's become more mainstream than it ever has before. Other people don't like that. I'm screaming from the rooftop like, this is a good thing. If you love this hobby, if you want this boom to continue and thrive, we need new blood in the game. Like if it was just the same people and it was like a country club and we're not taking any more admissions, we're at capacity, that model won't work, because I'll speak for myself here. I'm older. Like I'm not going to be around. Someday I'm not going to be here. We need that next group. You guys, people behind you, younger people, to kind of come up and take the baton. If we just said, hey, if you're in the hobby, you're in, but we're not taking any new people, when we die off, not to be morbid, but that's not going to work. And then if you say, well, we lost a lot of our old timers, now we're letting you in, it's too late. People will be like, hey, you were pretty rude to me back when I wanted it. I got out. I'm not coming back. And so I've always been my take with the hobbies. I welcome anybody, whatever you're doing. I don't care if you're buying something on Monday and selling on Tuesday. That's your business. No one's going to tell me what I can and can't do as long as it's legal, and I'm not doing robbing anyone or trimming cards or taking money and not sending someone what they paid for. We got to get past this point. I know you feel the same way. It's like, especially with a store, you want as many people in the hobby. There's trade-offs you'll make, as you alluded to. It's harder to get wax because people are just buying it left and right before it ever even hits the shelves, and then distributors are making it a little more difficult, if you will. And it's all, it's just people want it before it's even out. And but you've pivoted, you've figured out how to survive, and that's just kudos to you for kind of staying one step ahead. And you spoke about, I want you to talk, I know you've been in the grading, but now you're with NashCards, you do submission with PSA. Kind of talk about sort of your grading history, just submitting cards and then doing it kind of transition.
It's a funny story. My grading history used to be one of those guys that didn't believe in it. One of those guys that's like stupid. And because it's so arbitrary. And what happened was I sold a 2004, I think it was a 2014 Gypsy Queen Bryce Harper orange out of 25, when this was like in 2014 when Bryce Harper was winning the MVP. I sold it for like $250, I think. The dude that bought it sent it to BGS, got a BGS pristine grade on it, and sold it for like $1,200. And in front of my face, which I was all about, by the way. People get mad about that, but I'm all for it. But it taught me a lesson right there, watching him just sell that in my face. I was like, dude, like, why? I knew that card was, a tough card to get in good condition, and I knew it looked perfect. So I was like, why am I just like throwing money away? And from that day on, I just started using BGS. And this was back, as you probably remember, when they were like $12 a card. For 10 day, I think it was.
Yeah. So the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. And that, it kind of grew from that. And when I really got obsessed with grading was when BGS was doing the RCR at shows, and I discovered that. And that was back when it was like $8 a card, $7 a card. And so I used to travel the East Coast looking for BGS RCR and just taking raw cards and just throwing them at them and then flipping them on Instagram. And that's where I really got the itch of like, hey, like, instead of having to go to a show and pick out, like, find a guy that doesn't know he has a Mike Trout in a cheap box, or try to find a really good deal, like, I could just pay eBay or pay full market, buy these cards, process them, and make money. And that's when I became like really obsessed with grading. And I kind of just filtered through the companies. I went from BGS, and then when COVID hit and all that, I did a lot of PSA through a couple group subbers myself. And I liked it, but it was kind of like the time frame back then was a long time, and it was also like you weren't making 20x margins like you do today. You were like doubling the value of your card, so it was kind of hard to play with that time. So I was all BGS, and then COVID hit. I went to SGC. They were the only one that were open. I gave them a try. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. At that point, I discovered I started hooking up with PSA really heavy, and I started negotiating with them a little bit. Not negotiating, but you know what I'm saying. Like they knew who I was. They saw my social exposure. I'm sure they knew. Yeah. A lot of my customers were tagging them like about going to SGC, and I'm like, I wasn't promoting anything. I'm just trying to find the math that worked for my margins. And PSA took me on board to be a group subber with them, and I started subbing my cards really heavy with them, and it worked out better than any other company I've ever used by far. So now I'm a PSA guy. And I just think especially with all the other companies raising their prices, and PSA still is they raise their prices too, but like I'm still grading at $25 a card, or $11 to $12 a card, 13. And it might take a lot of time, but the margins we're getting on these things are just ridiculous. Yeah. And so I've just ran my whole business off these margins, just sending cards to PSA, getting them back, selling them, sending them off, and that's it. That's all we do.
And it's funny. I've said this on the show, so I'm not going to go into the long story. But like you, back in the day, I thought grading cards were sort of a fad. It wasn't my thing, and it's a huge part of what I do. And so we're live on YouTube during this interview, and so I rarely do this, but Ziggy asked a question in the chat, so I'll use it. When you get your cards that you're submitting to grade, where do you get them from? He mentioned Star Stock. Do you have certain platforms you're fond of?
I'm really big on personal connections. I really think eBay is a dumping ground for kicks. If you ever see me when I sell raw cards, and everyone knows I grade. So when I sell raw cards, I try to always say, this is from my kick pile, which means like these didn't make the cut to be sent to PSA. Because I'm not trying to sell people jumped up cards.
Not to cut you up, that's kudos to you for doing that. There are people who do that or don't do that, I should say. They just sell them without that disclaimer.
I just bought a lot of 7 Prism Kyler Murrays at a show. I take them back. They look perfect. Take them back. They all had fingernail dents in the back of them. Yeah. If you don't think that gentleman knew that, I'll never buy a card from him again, though. That's my thing. Like, don't lie to me about it. But anyway, so yeah.
No,
but where we were going with that.
Yeah, but no, the fact that you're up front like that is refreshing, because we both know that there's a lot, like you just brought out an example where that doesn't happen.
I don't buy from eBay because I believe a lot of people review their cards, and then when they don't pass the test, they just send them to eBay. And also because this is my biggest thing about eBay is that you set your own market. Even if I find a good deal on a rare card on eBay, I'll buy it. Now the whole world knows what I paid for that card, and every customer is going to come in my door on their phone and be like, well, it sold for $80 on eBay. I'll pay you $60. You know what I mean? So you set your own comps. And so I don't buy on eBay. I kind of buy on Facebook and other groups, but it's only from people that I trust, that I know that aren't reviewing their cards and sending me their dump piles. What I like to do is personally go out to shows, go out to places. I meet people that are like love ripping packs, and I like to buy cards in large quantities from people that open cards in large quantities and take care of their cards. And so I just go to a guy who buys all of his Prism. He pulls all of his Zions and Jaws. I don't even want them. I don't care. I'll take every other rookie, and they're in perfect condition pack, and then we'll put them through our process and send them off that way. And that's where I like to buy my cards.
Yep. On average, how many cards would you say you personally, like your cards, do you submit? Do you think? Again, I know that varies.
John, since the store opened, I'm a mess. I can't get anything done. I have a guy that I try to get to review my cards throughout the day too, and it's still like we have so much to do. We're always being pulled in a different direction. If all was normal, I would say at least 500 a week. I would be out on my personal cards. I think right now we're probably flirting in the low 100s, which is awful. It's going to make me just pick it up this week. Okay, guys, we're going to work. But my goal is like 300, around that range.
Yeah.
I will say though, it's changed a lot in the last month. You always have to adjust. And that's the thing that's really important. People complain about price raises. You know why they happen? Because we're all making a lot of money off them and we're dumping our cards to them. So like you have to adjust what you're sending. And so nowadays, like it's not about as much of the quantity because for Ultra Modern, the lowest price point on my site is $16 per card. 6 months ago, I was paying $9 a card.
Yeah.
So that's like almost double, and so you really have to adjust what you're sending. And so you can't just be pulling every rookie from 2019 Prism and sending it off now. You kind of have to be timed with it and put a little more head into it. So my how much cards I'm sending off has gone down, but the levels that I'm doing them at and like the value that I'm putting into it has gone up, obviously, because I'm always growing.
You're being more selective. You're being more strategic, which is just smart. It always bothers me when someone says, yells kind of from the rooftop at other people, stop sending in your base cards. And I get it. I get their frustration as far as wait times and all that. I get it. But if someone's paying for their card to be graded, that's their business. If they want, their Jose Oquendo rookie card that's worth 5 cents, they're just that's their PC guy, and more power to them. If like you said, just you have to decide like, hey, is this worth waiting 2 to 4 months for, or do I have to pay? Hey, I'm going to pay the $50, but I'm going to get it back in a week, 2 weeks at the work. You got to make those decisions. That's not someone else's fault. That's just the market of where we're at. Now you have to. Sometimes you got to change your strategy. That's life.
I change everything. I would say almost on a weekly basis we're changing what we're doing. For example, I say week because my team helps me so much. I mean, I have 2 guys that help me full time logging cards, reviewing my cards, sending them out. PJ Eric, shout out, what's up? My wife, as you know, always reviewing my cards too, helping out. So it's really a team effort, but we're sending out. Before I was sending out a lot of like base Kobe White, base Tyler Hero, Optic, even hoops, like they're dollars in dollar boxes, sending that out. But since I have to pay $16 a card for those, I kind of faded those. And now our 10-day has just got cut in half. It's actually a 5-day. No one knows that yet, but little live reveal.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. We're actually launching a new site next week after Thanksgiving. It's going to be huge. New service level. It's going to be awesome. Same price, $55 a card, and you send it off 5 days service level for PSA. And I'm doing that like crazy right now. Even on like DK Metcalf, I found some Prism of him, base Prism. I'm sending those 5-day, John. Base Prism. Because the way I look at it is the card is like $50-$60. You put $50 into it. They're selling for like $250 as a PSA 10 last time I checked.
Yeah.
So those models, as long as these eyes work okay, where I can pick out the 9s and 10s, I'm breaking even on 9s or making money. I'm making bank on 10s, and we just do that as much as we can.
Timing's important. Like that's the going rate.
Absolutely.
Now. You want, how I'm guilty of this myself, Chris. I'm usually not the quick turn. I'll just send them in at the $10, $15 level. When I get them back, I get them back. They're generally cards I know I'm not going to get until 3-4 months, 2 months on a good sub, and I know that. But there's times when I get I'm honest. You get a card back that you subbed 4 months ago. I'm like, if that was today, I probably wouldn't have sent this card, right?
Oh, absolutely. I get that all the time.
Maybe they're not starting no more. Maybe they've struggled and they're not, a hot prospect anymore, or even a person of interest or demand. I've got, for every great story where I've sent in a $10 card raw that winds up being $150 when it's sold graded. For every 2 of those, there's the one that, hey, when I sent this guy was the toast of the town. When I got him back, that temperature has changed, and I probably wouldn't even have subbed it now. But here it is slabbed. And so there is a strategy. There's sort of an AI, a rhythm to it. I don't want to say AI. That's artificial intelligence. We're not dealing with computers. But you have to decide, like, the iron, strike while the iron's hot. I need this back kind of quick. because there's always, especially in football. I'm a huge football guy. We both know, God forbid a broken leg, that a guy can go from top of the football market to career potentially being over, very quickly. And so you definitely, football, I think, is the one sport, if you're going to get a quick turnaround, it's probably right there. And so you gotta, these are things, this is on the individual submitters. This isn't even your job as a book. They have to decide what it's not your fault. So if they, and I'm, when I sub, I'm doing it at the $10 to $15. If I get that card back 4 months from now, like I mentioned, and that card doesn't have the same luster it once did, that's not Chris Kelsey's fault. That's Judge John Newman's fault for, that's the breaks, right? I could have, if I was really that concerned about it, I could have bucked up and paid and made sure I had it back in 2 weeks. I think sometimes we're quick to blame the grading companies for taking and even the submitters, even the people like yourself. It's not their fault necessarily. Now, I won't give the grading companies a complete pass, because they're not really managing the time they're saying they're going over that. But it's not your guys' fault who are the bulk submitters. Once you get that to the PSA in your case, or all the companies, I don't want to pick on just PSA. They're not the only. They're all having backlogs at this point. That's not the subbers' fault. You get your cards to them, then it balls in their court when they can get them back to you, to get them back to the consumer. So, we got that's the other thing in this hobby we do a really bad job of, is kind of blaming the wrong people.
It's never, no one ever takes any personal blame. Yeah. But, I mean, we try our best to be transparent about the wait times. We've had to shift our wait times 3 times now since we've launched in July. And the thing is, all we know is like what already happened. And that's so irrelevant till today that, that it's just a guess. Yeah. So I've started we're saying on bulk, we're saying 6 months now. I'm just telling people that because I'm just like, whatever. I don't know. No one knows exactly what it's going to be, but like everyone don't get disappointed. Just expect 6 months, Yeah.
It's funny. It's when I sub stuff, I actually, a lot of times I almost forget about it. I don't really, but like I don't think about it every day.
Oh, you have to.
Because you go nuts, right?
There's so people that it's check almost every day. Are crazy. There's people.
But I look at it like this: when it pops back, I'm surprised. I'm also one of those guys. I'll look at the grades before I get them back. I don't know. The older I get, I like less surprises. My heart can't take that stuff. But, all joking aside, we got to really, you're doing all you can do. It's once it's out of your hands, it really is out of here. And as consumers, we have to decide what turnaround times we choose to submit in. And I have done a little quicker turnaround time for certain cards. You can do that.
They're pretty consistent. At least with PSA. I mean, I know with BGS, we've sent something there recently. I do use them for certain stuff every now and then. I've sent a 2-day there. Of course, I had to pay $170 to get it shipped there and back, and for a 2-day. But it got graded in 2 days. And then when I send to PSA on a 2-day and 5-day, I mean, they're on those ones. It's those bulky service levels that get real backed up, or really past the due dates.
What the PSA 5-day, how are they running?
The problem, John, is that when people use us, or when you use a submission, and even when you just use PSA directly, you still have to ship your card to them. They still have to get that package from the post office. They have to open it. They have to sort it. They have to put it into a pile. They have to get into a line. So there's all these extra days built into that service level that people can't wrap their head around, it seems like a lot of times. The 5 days have been true to time for us. As soon as it gets checked into PSA, within 5 days, it's popping. But, that it's getting to that check-in, that's the struggle. And it's even with 5 days, they've been really good with checking it in like 2 to 3 days after delivery at PSA. But even those 2 to 3 days, people are just like, all right, it's already day 3. Is there any word on it yet? I'm like, it's not even in the system yet. you know.
Yeah,
And
I give you credit, man. I don't know if I could I don't know if I could do it. I don't, I'm a little grumpier. I think I'm not really grumpy, but maybe a little bit
oh
more.
man, every
You're
time
probably a nicer guy than I am. Let's just put it that.
someday it depends on when you catch me, but every time someone comes in here and they go, "Hey, I sent you a message on Instagram," my heart drops, and I go,
Yeah,
Was I bad or was I good?" You know, I'm like,
yeah.
I'm sorry if I
Well,
was
that's the
mean.
other thing. They think like they're the only person in the world. They don't realize like how many other people are it's the world the sun revolves around me thought process. But that's probably why I couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be. I wouldn't probably deal with that aspect as good
Well, the
as you
beauty of
do.
our system is I built this wonderful platform email called support@nashcards.com, and you
Yeah,
email them, and it's two of my good friends from like in Philadelphia when I grew up around that area. They live in Philadelphia area. I went to elementary school with the husband, the wife I went to middle school with. Good friends. They'll answer your questions all day long during the week. Send them
yeah,
whatever PSA questions you have. That's what they do, and they will
yeah,
answer you. You send them to me, I might get a little,
yeah.
sassy, a little stop, leave me alone. I'm
That's
with
all
my
right.
family at dinner, stop calling
Yeah,
me kind of thing. But that's why I love the system that we built. It's like at least I have something to throw at them. Like I have an automated message that says, "Thank you for your request. Please send it to support@nashcards.com."
yeah,
And we'll
and
take care of you.
you're organized. You got all your bases covered, and you're even thinking a little bit ahead, which is always important.
Absolutely.
You know, we beat a dead horse with the backlog times. That's out of both of our anyone's hands. That's on the grading companies. It's all
Mm-hmm.
speculation. But I just wanted, as someone who subs a lot of cards for grading personally and for others, what your thoughts are on automation in the industry, having the computer just
I
automatically.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if grading was A, cheap, and B, automated? Everyone would do it. It would become a requirement to sell your card. You would have to pay this fee, whatever it was. It would be cheap, but you would have to pay it now because everyone would expect that card to be automated, like with that grade, because it
Yeah.
would be so fast. Like the thing that I don't ever like push for wait times or push for price increases or anything like that. But what they do is they cause you to be crafty, okay? And
Yeah.
that makes you use your brain. If it becomes easy money where you don't have to use your brain, then I'm gonna leave because everyone will jump and it'll just be one of those. It's kind of like the wax game now, and I'm not no hatred on those guys, but like they kind of got grandfathered into being a millionaire or being a gold mine. And
Yeah.
it's easy, dumb money. You get a box for $100, you sell it for $1,000. It's like I don't
Yeah.
want to be a part of that. I don't need that. Like I like cards. I like to play with them. I like
Yeah.
to integrate with people. We like to rip cards here. We like to sub them. So like I just want to work for. I want to like because I feel like if other people it became easy, then I don't have an advantage anymore. And what my advantage always has been is that I'm good at that stuff, right? I'm like good at figuring out markets. I'm good at running math models and figuring out what to grade, when to grade,
Yeah.
where to grade it. That's what I'm good at. And if it became like so easy and accessible and everyone could just do it instantly, I lose my edge. And like, how
Yeah.
would that make me benefit?
Yeah,
So
I see both sides of it. Again, I'm old school. I'm sort of the old man on the porch. Number one, I don't like to see people be out of work, so I don't want to see I don't know how many graders, 50, 100 graders suddenly replaced by this supercomputer that spits out 50 cards in an hour. We don't need you guys. Thanks for all your years of hard work. Pick your last check up on your way out. That part kind of makes me nervous as what we're going through now with people being out of work, right? I don't want to make that problem worse. The analogy I use, I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. We see this in Major League Baseball. They want to
yeah, I was going to
replace
say that.
they want to replace the home plate umpire with Quest Tech, that computer that just automatically calls a ball and strike. I don't really like that. I like having that guy back there with the chest protector. And yeah, do they make bad calls sometimes? It is. There's graders sometimes miss great stuff. It's the human element, right?
See, I'm
Go
all
ahead.
for the human element, and like I like I think even card condition is discretionary. There are people that come into my shop and look at a card and they go, "Oh my God, that's trash." And I go, "That card's not even that bad." Like, because all they want is tens. All they see is tens. All they see is like every corner has to be perfectly sharp. And when I think about it, I'm like, that's a piece of cardboard that's been sitting in a piece of cellophane, thrown in Walmart, thrown in Target. Like, it has a little white on the corner. That's in really good condition to me. So we all see it differently. And I think even the graders see it differently. So people like are always up in arms about like, you know, oh, why did that 10? Why that 10? It's like, because Bob graded that one and John graded that one. And Bob, you know, doesn't think corner damage is that big of a deal because it's like the easiest thing to just boop is gone. And, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I just
no, I agree with you. It's all it's all discretionary, and we forget like the transport of these boxes and cases take to get to whether it's Walmart, Target, or a card store. Right? They're on UPS trucks. They're flying. They're on FedEx jets. Right? You know, this stuff. I'm in the transportation industry for my work. I know how this works. I see stuff come back to my terminal, OS&D all beat up. I get stuff to take home, cereal and stuff like that, where the cereal's good, just the box is a little crunched in, right? And we can't put this on the shelf at Wegmans or you know, supermarket. So here, guys, everyone grab a box. It's still good. It's just not marketable. Well, that happens in any industry, in any product, right? And so you gotta be realistic. It's why do we think tens sell so well? If they were that easy, everyone the price would come down. First off, you know, so you can't have your cake. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Sure,
absolutely.
You know, people who want, you know, the argument I get, and I had what you call it, Matt Greeny from My Slabs on, a great guy.
I love Matt Greeny.
Yeah, he's for automation, and I get his point.
Matt.
But I'll stick
I love Greeny. You tell me that now, I hate him. No, I don't really. Matthew.
I'll stick up for him a little bit. Here's his rationale, whether you agree with it or not. And he makes a good point. Whether, you know, his point is, me and you are graders. Chris and John are graders at PSA. I had a fight with my wife this morning before work over whatever. And I come in and I'm sort of on edge, thinking about in a bad mood. And so I'm looking at someone's card and it's between a 9 and a 10 or a 9 and an 8 maybe might be a better example. And I'm in a bad mood. So I'm like, that's an 8. And you had a great night. You went out to dinner. You know, you had a great night playing with Max, and you're in the work. You're coming to work. You're on cloud 9, and the opposite, right? It's it's an 8 or 9. It's close. I'm a 9. Good for this guy, right? But, you know,
you know what I say?
That's his. That's
what
his.
I say to Matt though. I say that's a small price to pay for this. I'm not even going to talk about that. Here's the alternative, John. This is what's going to happen with automation is that you're going to go onto Facebook and you're going to see Bobby Billy from Nebraska, who just bought a blaster from Walmart, and he live views it through the automated feeder, and a 7 and a 6 comes out, and he's like, Panini Tops Control, what is this crap? And because he's not getting 10s from all of his automated grades. And then you're going to get him being all mad and up in arms, and it makes no sense. And so, in my opinion, that little mood thing that you talked about is a small price to pay for that second scenario of automation.
And when I think about it, I agree with what you just said. I think the other thing is it's people are going to still complain about automation.
Oh, it's going to be the
like
worst.
You just said. And so now not only you're not ending the complaints. What you just ended is those people out of work.
You flooded the market. You flooded the grading market. You made it irrelevant. You brought down prices, and at the same time, you put all that grunt and moaning onto the production companies because they're not spitting out 10s out of their machines. Yeah. That's exactly what I think would happen with automation.
Yeah.
So
I respect Matt's opinion, and it's a good point, but I don't think it's enough for me to sign off. I'm not saying he's wrong. I think he's exactly right, but just because the point's right, I still don't think we just sign off on just going full automation. And so, while we might agree, I don't think we get off talking about Matt. We get off at different exits still, even though I agree that the direction might be the right. I just don't think that's the answer to that problem.
That's a better way to put it than what I said. I'm sorry, Matt. No. John's way more civil. I
don't know about that. Every once in a while, Chris, my brain defrosts here in Syracuse and actually works. So we haven't got into full blown winter yet, so it's still working. So I want to get back to NashCards in the store. One thing I love what you do. It's beautiful. Your wife Amy, your son Max, they're part of what you do in the store. I love that. I think it's something. When I had my store, my son wasn't even around yet, so I didn't have that opportunity. If I always joke, like when I get asked if you ever do a store again, John, I would say if I did it, my son would have to be involved in some capacity. He's older at 20, but I love what you're doing. Kind of speak to that dynamic and how awesome that really is.
So my son is 6. His name is Max, as you mentioned. He's never been huge into sports. We kind of threw him into soccer, and he kicked it around. And in basketball, he didn't really like it. So he's never been into sports. He never took appeal to like watching sports with me or sports cards. I still have hope. I don't really care. My wife still has hope. He might someday. But once a friend brought over some Pokemon cards, my son was just like all about it. And we started buying some packs and ripping that. And there was one time where my friend Farley, what's up, Farley, was over, and we were ripping Pokemon, and my son just hit a full art card, and he was shaking. Like the little kid excitement when you pull like the Derek Jeter back in the day or whatever. Yeah. He was like shaking. He was like, oh, and that's when I knew it was like, oh, I want him to be a part of this. Now he's like excited about what I do. And it just brought this whole new like energy to me. And so we offer Pokemon now. And now my son has like a little showcase in the corner of the store where he sells his Pokemon cards. And I'll be honest with you, John, they're a little overpriced. I let him price his own stuff. Me and Amy keep harping like $1 to $2 max. And sometimes they'll be like 20. And I'm like, so sometimes I have to make up the difference.
He drives a hard bargain.
Yeah. We're going to have to teach him a little bit of comping, eBay sold comps and stuff like that. But, he's only 6. I'm not dogging him. So what's up, Max? You're okay, buddy.
They got
your prices a little bit, lower your price.
But you got to start somewhere. It's
absolutely.
It's a lot easier to come down than sometimes go the other way. So he might be smarter than you think. But
he sells lots of cards, man, and then he comes over. He pays me for packs because I won't just give him cards. I feel like
you're teaching him the value of
the dollar and the transaction and how to negotiate. I'm trying to integrate that through this model and teach him math. Even we were doing math with it last night with packs. So. That's been amazing. And then my wife, she never really cared about the cards. She's always been 100% supportive, which I am amazing. I'm so lucky to have her because a lot of my friends or other people I know in the hobby don't have that. And they have to kind of, dance around or do stuff. But if I'm out to 2 a.m. doing deals, it doesn't matter. She knows, it pays the bills. It's what we do. Yeah. And she's even jumped on board. And I think we spoke about this before we went live, but like she even reviews cards for me. She sends off PSA orders for me. She comes to the store. She'll help you out if I'm busy talking with a customer. It's me, her, and Max, and then our whole team here. So I just love it. I love that I'm able to share the space with them, and it's become a whole family thing rather than just me in my office, like, look at my Chris Bryant, like.
Well, they say, the old saying goes, right? If you enjoy what you do, it's not really work. And so I think, I don't want to speak for you. You're right here. I think it's become less work in that format for you. And it's,
absolutely.
And
I probably work about 14 hours a day, but I don't feel like I work a day in my life. But I know that's corny, but I love being
true.
Here. I'm here today. I don't even need to be here. We're not open, but I came here to get some things done and talk to you because I love being here. So
that's a good place to be. There's some in the hobby, truthfully, that aren't there that are still doing it. And it probably shows in their character or what have you. That's them. But Chris, awesome stuff, man. You know, as someone who's been in the hobby a long time, seeing that with Amy and Max, it's really, really cool. I definitely wanted to have you talk about that and highlight that. I'll give you the final word here as we're kind of wrapping up, where people can find NashCards, the store, where people can find NashCards to submit their cards to PSA, and anything else, your Instagram handle. Take your time, give out all that stuff.
As I said, we started on Instagram. That's probably one of our most popular avenues. That's usually just me. I used to sling a lot of singles on there. I'm hoping to get back to that maybe next week. It's just been so much pull back and forth here. You can always hit me up on DM there. It might take me a while to get back to you, but I will get back to you. You can find us at www.nashcards.com, especially if you're interested in PSA. That's where you should go. Read the procedures, read everything before you ask my people questions. Just do us all a favor. Read, people, read. It's all there. But also, we are launching a new site after Thanksgiving. It's going to be the most amazing thing that you've ever seen in bulk subbing. And I am biased, I know, but I promise you, it's the best website I've ever seen. It's better than our current website. We're going to have multi.
I was going to say, I'm familiar with your current one, and that's pretty good. So if this is better, it's scary to think.
It's scary, John. About. It's amazing. We're going to offer, like I said, our 10-day has been cut in half. It's now a 5-day. We have this new amazing site. It's 100% faster. It'll track everything to a T. We're going to have the best system and platform out there. No offense to everybody else, because I love you guys. I subbed with you guys, but I've been working on this for 6 months every day. My guy, Dan, is unbeatable with the systems, internet building. Our new site, again, after Thanksgiving, check it out. It'll have everything you need. And then again, Instagram is where you can find us. Store is in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, about 15 minutes from Nashville Airport.
All right, awesome stuff. I'm hoping get down there sometime, and if I get in that neck of the woods, we'll do this again, and we'll do it live and on site, and it'll be fun, and we'll talk softball the whole time.
If New York ever lets us Tennesseans come up there again, they haven't let me up all year. If I'm ever allowed up, I've missed a few weddings already. I haven't seen my parents since like 1992. If they let me back in, I'll come up and see you too, John. We're only about 15 minutes away.
Yeah, no problem. We'll make a plan of it. So,
absolutely,
Chris, keep doing what you're doing, man. Awesome stuff. Love it. Thanks for giving us a little time on the show as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much, John. We'll see you later.
All right, we'll see you.